introduce Jody Goodenough, and I thank her for coming here. She's my part of grade assistant. She teaches classes for me in Davis County, Weber, Davis County. I'm so thankful to have you. And are you teaching a class right now?
I am. Two of my students are here tonight, Sherry and Leanne.
Great. So what are you teaching? Speech reading?
Speech reading right now.
Speech reading.
Case is starting very soon.
Great. So she's busy. So I'll be in the back, and if you have any questions, just call, okay? All right. Now let's see if I get Lance taken care of. Here you go.
I don't.
You want me to wear it in?
I've just turned off my tea coil.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Jody Goodenough. Welcome. I am going to be talking about tinnitus, or you will also hear tinnitus. It's said either way. And that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. There's a lot of terms we're going to be covering that are quite in-depth because tinnitus is very wide and broad subject. Lots of research is going on around the world. The American Tinnitus Association, they're one of the biggest support and non-profit organizations here in the United States. And I'm proud to say that they sponsor my support group, Living with Hearing Loss and Tinnitus, on the Facebook page. And I work really close with them. And it's really neat how we can combine our research and combine the different people like the audiologists and ENTs that we recommend in different states. So I will be covering a lot of the different research, medical terms. I have a list of audiologists and ENTs here in Utah that I recommend. I've actually met and interviewed most of them on my list. I'm actually really proud to say that Dr. Wayne Garrett is here tonight, and I will be referring to him a few times. He's right there. He's an amazing audiologist. He knows a lot about tinnitus. And so I'm very honored that he was able to come tonight. This week, the 13th through the 19th, is Tinnitus Awareness Week. If you belong to the American Tinnitus Association, or you're familiar with them and have been on their Facebook page, you'll probably notice a list of events going on throughout the United States. One of them is the Tour de Tinnitus, and it's a 100-mile bike ride, and it's raising awareness and funds for the military veterans as well as other tinnitus sufferers. I'm very proud to say that one of my best friends and supporters, Sal Gentile, is riding in the Tour de Tinnitus Saturday, 100 miles. And he has suffered for about 11 months now, and he is one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. We're going to go forward. The first slide in my presentation is one of my heroes. One of the people that have actually made a real impact on my life. He's a very famous tinnitus sufferer. And you see one of his quotes? Beethoven. Beethoven said that hearing is one of our most amazing senses. It connects us to the world around us, but it does not define us. Beethoven started to grow deaf around the age of 20. He also developed severe tinnitus. Now, can you think about living back then without treatments, without cochlear implants, hearing aids, people that really understood what was going on inside of our ears and, of course, our heads? Many of the symphonies that Beethoven conducted they were based on some of the tones and pitches he was missing with his hearing loss, and also some of the pitches he was hearing with his tinnitus. His later symphonies, you can really tell that they're more deep tones, they're missing a lot of the high frequencies. By the time Beethoven was 40 years old, he was completely deaf. He wrote about his trials, being deaf and the tinnitus, and how it took him from the hearing world into a world where no one understood him. He also went on to conduct one of the most amazing symphonies of all time, the Ninth Symphony. When he conducted the Ninth Symphony, he could not actually be on stage and be a conductor because he was deaf. He stood off to a corner of the stage. And during the last part of his symphony, he happened to turn his back. Well, when someone came up to him and turned him back around, the audience, the emotions of the audience were overwhelming. They stood up, standing ovation, clapping, crying, because they knew what Beethoven was going through with being deaf, but still being able to produce this wonderful music. The amazing thing about Beethoven is a lot of us tinnitus sufferers use his music as part of our therapy, our sound therapy, because certain tones in his symphony help us be calm and calm down and not stress about our tinnitus. And so that is why Beethoven is one of my heroes. And also one of the reasons I named my support group Living with Hearing Loss and Tinnitus. This is kind of just an overview of what we're going to cover tonight. If you have any questions whatsoever, or if you need more explanation during my presentation, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'll stop. I'll try to explain more in depth. If I can't, I'll refer to Dr. Garrett, and he might be able to cover what I'm covering also. I have lived with hearing loss and tinnitus for about 29 years now. I lost my hearing when I was 9 years old. And most doctors say it was from a virus and autotoxic medications. And I had lots of ear infections when I was a child. Now back then, when I lost my hearing, I went to bed, a normal child with normal hearing. 8 hours later, I didn't have any hearing, but I had extreme noises within my ear and head. It happened like that, which usually that doesn't happen for a couple months to maybe a week or two after. But for some reason, it must have already been there, and by losing my hearing, that's when I noticed it more. So at that young of an age, my mom and dad took me to several audiologists, and they tried out hearing aids on me, but I had to wait for about 3 months to get my first set of hearing aids. So at 9 years old, I was in a silent yet ringing nightmare. I couldn't explain to my parents the emotion that goes with this. That you get exhausted trying to figure out what this noise is. And of course, it gets, tinnitus spikes. A lot of you that have tinnitus might actually get the tinnitus spikes, where you either go into loud environments or you get stressed out and all of a sudden you get a louder perception of ringing. How many in the audience have tinnitus? Okay. How many of you have had it for less than 6 months? Okay. How many of you have had it for more than 10 years? Hmm? 4 years? Okay. Now, those of you that have had it for a long time, like 4 years or more, have probably been through the routine, the testing, the evaluation, and everything that goes with trying to eliminate the bad tinnitus versus the regular subjective types of tinnitus. Well, I went through all those tests. With my story, I lost my hearing again at 15, and also my tinnitus increased. I actually was in a ski accident that made the tinnitus louder. I hit my head when I was racing, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, now I've got even louder tinnitus. And I was fortunate enough to have an ENT that had been with me since I was 2 years old. And I went into his office just in tears, because not only did I lose more hearing, but I also now had increased tinnitus. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Because at age 9, I went through this anger stage and the depression stage and all of this, and then I had to do it again at age 15. Went right back to the depression stage, the anger stage, the adaptation stage, and finally the acceptance stage. My ENT was so wonderful, he just barely retired, that he took me in and he explained to me in depth what was happening to me and why I had these sounds and what I could do for the sounds. He had a lot of coping techniques he taught me that I've actually mastered and actually added on to throughout the years. I lost my hearing again at the age of 32, 34, 36, and now, the most recent, March 1st, 2012, age 37. It's getting closer and closer together every 8 months. I'm completely deaf in my right ear, but I have alarm sounds in that ear, 24/7, every day of the week. Yes?
Do you have a CI?
I do not have a cochlear implant, but I do wear my old programmable hearing aid in it, because I have noticed with the electrical stimulation, it actually does help me cope better than when I remove my hearing aid. Even though I can't hear out of it, it's still sending some signals and helping. It doesn't always help, but it's better than nothing. In my left ear, I'm profoundly deaf, and I have a lower pitch of tinnitus in that ear. Why I got into raising awareness and giving public presentations and different things like that was actually because of the Sanderson Center. I came down to the Sanderson Center and I started teaching classes, and I started meeting more and more people like myself. And I'm able to give them my knowledge of living with it for so long, and I have my support group that I've had for over a year now, and I have developed some different techniques for people, because not everyone can benefit from some of the therapies we have out there, especially like my type of hearing loss won't respond to certain treatments. And so most of my ways of coping with it go on from like the different yoga exercises to the different calming and meditation exercises to diet modifications, and we'll talk about a few of those. But when I started my support group, and I was really new, and I only had like 5 people on my side. One of them was from Price, Utah, that I actually was fortunate enough to drive down to Price with Jordy from the center, and I was able to help him. He was in this state of suicidal thoughts at the time. He was very new to hearing loss, and he was also very new to tinnitus. And many of you know, when it first happens, it is so stressful. You don't know what's going on in your head and your ears. You can't figure out where the noise is coming from. And you go through a depression stage, and you don't even really know how depressed you are at that time. Well, he was in this severe stage. And he's a musician. So now think, losing your hearing, being a musician, and now having severe ringing. So I went down there and we met with him and we went over coping techniques, and I went over my pamphlet that I put together. And now we email almost daily, because there's certain times that he needs me more than others. And I do this with people from all over the world. On my support group, I have 222 people from everywhere. Turkey, Egypt, Portugal, United States. And what's really fun is we call ourselves the T family. And so we've just shortened tinnitus, and we're the T family. They refer to me as the Iron Lady of T, which is really a compliment, because when they have bad days, they come to me for support. And when I have bad days, I can go to them for support. So it's a good thing to have in your life. That's one thing I cannot stress. You have to have a good support network when you have this. This disorder, if you do not have a support group, that's when it gets worse. Because if your spouse or your family members don't understand this, they just look at you with this perplexed look. And so by having someone to reach out to you that knows about it, it can help. You can vent. You can say, I'm having the worst day ever, help me. And we talk about it. So that's why the American Tinnitus Association started. Not only for research, but also to support other sufferers. Now, yes, please. As I was telling you before, you will hear tinnitus by some people. Like the American Tinnitus Association goes by tinnitus. But many, many audiologists and physicians go by tinnitus. It's really like tomato, tomato, either or. For me, because of my hearing loss, it's much easier for me to say tinnitus than it is for tinnitus, because I'm not hearing all the words come out when I say tinnitus. And so throughout my presentation, I will say tinnitus. Now, it comes from the Latin meaning to ring. That's where it was originally thought of. But of course, the first case of tinnitus was clear back in Egyptian times. That was the first documented case. So of course, as we know, humans, we've been around for a long time. So of course, so is tinnitus. You would think by now we would have a cure, but it's so complex, that's why we don't have a cure, and I'll explain why. Now, how many of you guys have ringing? Ringing? Okay. How many have clicking? Clicking? How many have combo tones? Ringing, buzzing, clicking, whooshing, all together. Okay. So all of us are different.
Roaring.
Roaring. Roaring is very common. Roaring, some people say it sounds like the ocean, like roaring, but other people get
like a bell.
Jet engine. Oh.
Like it's like a bell.
Like a bell.
Almost
Yeah.
like you're a bell. It's almost like music to me.
So you have musical ear syndrome. Oh, now that's interesting. That's a phenomenon. That's a different type of phenomenon.
I grew up with that ringing, but as I grew older, it changed. I had the cochlear implant, and it's more like it was music. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're kind of in a different phenomenon group.
Yeah, definitely. With the high ringing, it's really persistent. But last weekend, I went to Wendover, and I was there for the weekend camping, and I heard no ringing. So it was really peaceful. But then I came back here, and it turned out the ringing was back.
Okay. Well, I'll get back to you, but
I have a situation where I'll have days when I'm completely gone. You know, I also have chronic dizziness. And then I'll have days where it's just horrible.
it's very common. For both of you, what you just described, we can actually have days where it's completely calm, and you might not notice it at all. That's the stress mechanism that comes into play that I'm going to be talking about. If you're not stressed, your brain is calmer, and you'll not notice the ringing or buzzing or whooshing as much. It might still be there, but you're paying attention to other things and not the noise. That is a key coping skill that we teach. On you, if it increases, like on bad days, if it's really, really loud on some days, it's because your body is having a physiological stress response. And when you get the limbic system involved,
Sometimes, like yesterday, I met with my social worker, and I knew that when I got through with that I was going to have a lot more tinnitus. If I get in noisy situations or have something that stresses me,
yeah,
then it kicks on.
and that is the whole mechanism that comes into play. We actually talk about the stress cycle, and I'll explain that more in depth as we go on. But our body's role, the stress, the limbic system, and everything else comes into play with your tinnitus. Because it is coming from your brain, and it is coming from your auditory cortex. There's lots of things that come into play with this, lots of factors. That's another reason they haven't found a cure yet. Each one of us is different. Each one of us responds to different treatments different. Some of us that have hearing loss have tinnitus because of our hearing loss and the missing sensory input. And our brain is trying to find it, and it's sending these signals. Can you hear me? And if you can't hear it, it sends more signals. And we'll get more in depth with that. But also, there's lots of different types of tinnitus. There's not just one type. If there was one type of tinnitus, there would be a cure by now. But there's not. Several types, several reasons for tinnitus. Now, according to the American Tinnitus Association, there's about 50 million Americans and rising on how many people suffer from this. A lot of our military are coming back with tinnitus because, of course, they're around the bombs and the grenades and everything else that are way past the decibel scale of safe. And now we have about 250 million people worldwide that suffer with this. And that's why on my support group I have so many people from around the world. I have noticed certain countries that are higher than others. And the UK is very high. Speaking of one of my people on my support group, there we go. This is Angela. I have never met Angela in person. We met on the American Tinnitus Association's site. So this is really neat. But anyway, 250 million people worldwide. Now the UK, I've noticed, has an extreme amount of people. And they have a lot of research, which is really, really positive for us in the United States. Harley Street in London is conducting many, many different trials. Right now, they're secret trials. And a lot of the people I know have signed secrecy contracts until the clinical trials are finished. But so far, very promising. Very, very promising. Belgium is conducting another amazing study that I'm very excited that I'll tell you about tonight. And also, I've noticed India, Portugal, a lot of Asian countries, and South Africa have very high levels of tinnitus. It is most common in older generation, 40 to 7-year-olds, but it can affect any age. The youngest person on my support group that suffers with this is 12 years old. He developed this from the iPod, wearing his earbuds. Unsafe levels.
Now, how do we get on the support group?
I do have cards out on the table. Right now I'm only on Facebook, but I'm starting a blog soon. I'm just getting that up and running, but I do have a card out on the table, and it has my link to my support group. And then you just hit the like button, and you're on. I have a public page where I post all the newest research. I post articles, I recommend doctors, and then I have a private support group where we go and we talk. And all of us, we can vent on that page. Because on my public page, I try to keep it a positive reinforcement. Because when you're new to tinnitus, that's one of the problems is you start researching it on the internet and you find all the negative, and then you get more stressed out and more depressed, and that's bad. So I try to keep my page, my public page, very, very positive. And then on my private page, anything goes. So if you're having a bad day, you tell me, and you tell everyone else on that page. And if I don't answer, one of them will. And I'm telling you, we have more knowledge, most of us, than a lot of physicians out there, because we live with it. And we're able to see what helps us and what doesn't help us. We can experiment with our own bodies a lot better than a physician can. And we also recommend treatments that we've tried and succeeded with. So it's very good. And also, the American Tinnitus Association has a Facebook page that is wonderful. And then they also have their regular website page where you can purchase their CDs, their pillows, also find out about the newest research, recommended doctors in your area. Very, very good sites. And the brochures are out there as well. So, oh, equal sex distribution? Can't say that word tonight. But yeah, it can amount to any sex.
With sleep apnea, is that a factor with tinnitus?
I am so glad you asked this. Okay, this is not completely proven yet. There's a doctor that I put his articles up a lot because they are starting to find that it is more common in sleep apnea patients than it is in just the normal population. It has a factor in there. There's a few different factors that you fall into with sleep apnea. But if you already have hearing loss and you have sleep apnea, you are more prone to tinnitus than if you didn't have those two factors. The theory is, on the research being done right now, is as you lay down and you have sleep apnea, you're not breathing correctly. Well, our cochleas are highly vascular. And so when you lay down and you have that sleep apnea, the blood gets kind of thick and it's not flowing as well. And so when it goes in the cochlea, it's kind of gooey and it's not how it's supposed to be. And so it can damage hair cells. And right now it is a theory, but they're testing it more and more. So, yes. Now, how many of you have unilateral tinnitus? That's 1 ear. 1 ear. Okay? How many of you have it in both ears?
I just have.
You have what?
I just have it. I don't know whether it's.
You don't know which side? Or
No.
it's both? Huh. So you're perceiving it more in your head than you are your ears.
Yeah, I am bilateral cochlear implant, but because of my tinnitus, I haven't been able to use my new one.
So you have 2 cochlear implants?
Yeah.
You do, and it did not help your tinnitus.
Actually trying to use my new processor. It's way too complicated to spend much
Yeah.
time on.
Well, because we go over cochlear implants for some people, and they have said that with cochlear implants, that it actually will eliminate tinnitus in about 77% of the hearing loss population that have it. And so I'm amazed by meeting you. And
I got my cochlear implant, this first one, in 2003, and the tinnitus didn't come down through 2008.
I think you might have some other factors in play. You might actually be what I refer to as the combo deal, or the combo mill. I'm that way. I have combination tinnitus. I might go into McDonald's and ordering the supersized combo meal. That's me. My tinnitus is from many, many injuries. I am very adventurous, and I've had many ski accidents. I've had many other adventures in my life that have led to damage to my neck. my other body. I've had dislocated shoulders, broken foots, rotated pelvis, on and on. So I also have somatic tinnitus. Somatic tinnitus is muscle related. And if you damage any part of your body, by having that stress on your body all the time, there's a physiological and central nervous system role that comes into play with that tinnitus. And some people, they don't have hearing loss. They've been tested at all levels. They still might have some hearing loss somewhere, but they haven't found it.
Now, they shouldn't ask get worse in large group settings with a lot of noise like what?
Yes, I'm going to cover that also, and I have a real in-depth theory about this. And of course, it's just a theory, but if I go in Walmart, and especially recent, because now I've lost all the hearing in this ear, but I
go to Walmart.
Yeah, and I have the severe tinnitus, but I'm relying now, I'm trying to hear out of one ear, so I'm still getting my boundaries with that. If I go into Walmart, I usually have my mom with me too, because what happens is, the minute I hit that first door, with all those carts and all those people, I get a tinnitus spike, and it spikes through the roof to the point where my eyes shake, and I get severe vertigo, and I have to hold on, or else I'm going down. I had 5 concussions in 1 year, because I can't take certain environments, and I will fall, split my head open, or get a concussion, and it's because of noise. Now, there is another type of disorder that goes along with tinnitus a lot, and it's called hyperacusis. And that is like we become hypersensitive to noise. And it is part of the tinnitus group. Not everyone with tinnitus will actually have hyperacusis also, but it can happen. Now, when I go in Walmart, I turn this hearing aid completely off. And I turn this one really low.
Do you have any dizziness?
Oh yes, I have severe vertigo too.
Do you have chronic dizziness?
I have what?
Do you have chronic dizziness?
No.
That's something I've got in the last 6 months or so. And because of that, I only last so long. So I have to get up and leave. Because I'm being real sick.
Yeah.
I will contact you some more.
Oh, okay. Good.
But I'm really.
Oh, okay. Well,
No, can I get out these doors?
sure.
See, I knew this was going to happen.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll finish with my Walmart story. Okay. And so, what happens is I have to turn this hearing aid off, and I have to turn this one extremely low, and I always have the cart just in case for balance. And it's really hard to get into situations like that because it takes me a long time to get through, Walmart or very extreme noisy places. Now, the theory is, picture CD or a DVD, and you have it, but it has lots of scratches on it. It's just like scratch all over, but you still want to watch it. You stick it in the player. So the player, what does it have to do to try to get past those scratches? It speeds up. And it goes speeding up and speeding up, trying to get through. And you might get a few things off of it. You might get like one whole song off the CD, but then all of a sudden it skips again and skips again. That's like our hearing system. If you have damage to your cochlea and some of your inner ear cells are bent, they might not be missing, but they're bent. Well, the bent hair cells are the scratches on the CD. So what do our cochleas have to do? Speed up. They speed up the fluid and they speed up the electrical signals, and they try to force them to the brain. And then the brain is getting missing or broken signals, so what does it do? It sends down a different signal but more forceful. Then, that's what you're hearing, is this like skipping sensation of tinnitus. That's a theory. That's how I kind of explain it to a few different people, as how it kind of happens. Now, a lot of people that have problems with noise when they go into noisy environments, they wear earplugs, which is highly recommended for those of you that don't have like hearing loss and you're bothered by loud noises. You can put your earplugs in and then go into that noisy environment, and it'll kind of buffer your tinnitus spikes. You don't want to wear them for long periods of time, because that actually can do more damage than not wearing it. But if you need to get through, the noisy parts, wear the earplugs, and you shouldn't have as many problems. Now, how many of you perceive your tinnitus in your head versus your ears? No one? Okay. Do you perceive it more like in the back of your head? Kind of like right in your... Do you perceive your tinnitus like in the back of your head or in the front of your head? Okay. Well, there are tinnitus sufferers. They actually, if they are perceiving the noise like in the upper lobe, they are related to the epilepsy patients, Parkinson's patients. That same area is sending mixed signals to your auditory cortex and different things. And so I'll be speaking about a new treatment that isn't approved in the United States for tinnitus yet, but it's coming along very closely. It is approved for epilepsy, depression, and Parkinson's disease. And so, but I'll be talking about that one too. Now, how many of you, when you first developed tinnitus, how many of you became so depressed and so freaked out that you might have had some dark thoughts? No? Well, you guys are doing really good. Many people, when this happens, they get so stressed out, and they get suicidal, some of them.
I'm already stressed out. Before I started this because I had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and fatigue bar. So I had little holes on top of it with this coming on top of it.
Oh, okay.
So I've already had the depression and so forth. So it was...
Yeah, I actually have, we'll be talking about that also. I know, oh, yeah. Oh, first.
A lot of times I have to try to ignore the hearing, the ringing that's happening, and so I just try to, throughout the day, ignore that. I just have to try to forget about it.
I'll get back to you. And
you'd asked a good question. As far as depression goes, when I first got tinnitus, I think I was really little at the time. And I was just confused if I was hearing something now or if there was something going on. So I didn't really understand. I was just confused as a child. But now, as an adult, it does affect me still. When the tinnitus comes on, it kind of alerts me that I need to cool off, or that obviously I'm stressed out.
okay, now both of you, I'll address those questions. When you say ignore your tinnitus, focus on something else. That's correct. That's what we do. That's one of the coping techniques. Ignore the sound. Pretend it's not there. Especially for people with hearing loss. Because if we can't hear the sound therapies that are out, or we can't benefit from the masking devices, well, of course, we're only left with the coping techniques. But, like both of you, I've had tinnitus for 29 years, so I've developed a set of coping techniques. Some days are bad, I'm not going to lie. There are some days where I don't want to function. I just want to go in a very dark room and sleep. It exhausts you. It makes you, it just emotionally, physically exhausted some days.
During times when I'm sleeping at night, sometimes I'll have that continuous reading, sometimes it won't happen. But all of a sudden then, when I get up in the morning, it'll spike again.
That's another thing. Now there's those of us that I know on my side, there's a few that say when they go to sleep, they wake up and it's quiet, really quiet. Then there's those of us that wake up and the minute it's almost like the minute we raise our head, all of a sudden there it is and then it just keeps climbing. And there's some theories with that also. Because if you have TMJ that affects your jaw, that could be one of the reasons. Maybe you're grinding your teeth at night, and so it's tight, and when you wake up and raise your head, there's the spike. But there's other mechanisms. And then also, those of us that have had it for so long, and we're just like, okay, we cope with it, we deal with it, we focus on other things. And it takes a very strong person to live with this. It really does, I'm not gonna lie. There's those of us that it gets so emotional sometimes and we just break down. And that's okay, that's normal. With this, if you need to cry, it's normal. If you need to go out and just walk around for hours on end, do it. You have to relieve your stress. If you don't relieve your stress, it's gonna get worse. And it's gonna just, we call it the tea monster sometimes, because it really is. And it's such a strange phenomenon that happens that, finding that one thing that's going to work for you is hard. Many of us do several different things. Some of us love exercise, so we do yoga, we run, we bicycle. Others, they prefer to read. Some, after you get to a point. At first, when you get tinnitus, reading or concentrating on anything, it doesn't really happen. It's like your mind is scattered in 50 different ways, and you can't. But one of my students that I went down to practice, he couldn't read, he couldn't walk. It took him 6 months to get his balance back, to be able to walk. He couldn't read, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't concentrate on anything. We finally, it hasn't been a year yet, but we finally have him walking, exercising, eating better. He produces music, like I told you before, and he's on YouTube. And he is singing Hallelujah. And it was about 3 or 4 months after he developed tinnitus. And he wasn't sure if he could still do it. And he did it. And that's proof right there that you have to make a choice with this. Am I going to live with this and carry on? Or am I going to let it take my life over? And many of us on the American Tinnitus Association and also my support group, there's a few of us that have been together for a really long time now. And I've seen the success with them. And it's amazing. We have so many stories where some of them haven't had it for more than like 6 or up to 10 months. They're very new. They started off by going to the emergency room doctor over and over and over, just freaking out and not knowing what to do. And then they found the support group, and they found that they weren't alone, and they could talk about it. And they got off some of the medication they were on. Because with most medication, it's not going to cure your tinnitus, it's going to make you forget about your tinnitus to a point. It's considered a crutch medication in a sense, because it just kind of puts you in that limbo state. So Xanax is one of the top they prescribe when you first get this, and it just makes it so you're not as depressed. Of course, if you really do need the medication, yes, go ahead and take it, because you have to have it. But those of us that just have tinnitus, and we have nothing else wrong with us, there's not a medication out there right now that we know of that will actually cure this. This is just a, question.
With tinnitus, I've got a doctor who gave me some drops. a steroid type of drop, and it seemed to have helped, but you're right, I don't think it cured it.
Steroids, did you lose your hearing like recently?
I was born deaf.
Oh, well now I'm perplexed. Dr. Garrett, would you know?
I would guess there was probably some other kind of damage that the ENT was expecting was going on. So they took the steroids to try to stop that swelling or damage that was happening in the ear that was producing tinnitus. That would be my guess. But that's
Okay. Yeah, I don't know all the answers.
I'm not thinking.
My tinnitus came on, say, a year ago. When it came on, I had a low-level headache that came along with an associated low-level headache. Is that common?
Headaches with tinnitus patients are common. Do you suffer from migraines?
No,
No? Did you have a sinus infection? Like a sinus headache?
no.
No?
It's just a low-level headache. On a scale of 1 to 4, I'll classify it as about a 4.
Did you take
From
any?
1 to 10, it would be about a 4.
Did you take any medications for it?
For the headache,
Yeah.
the only thing I've really taken is Tylenol, and it seems like it helps.
Okay.
Sometimes it's worse than others, but
Well, I know a lot of people with tinnitus suffer from headaches, but usually that's after they get the tinnitus. So there's, you know, if you didn't have a sinus infection or you don't suffer from migraines, neck trauma, anything, yeah, I wouldn't know exactly why.
Is the headache, is it persisting now?
it is.
Have you tried massage therapy or acupuncture, acupressure?
I have not.
I would try those things because that could be the muscular stuff in here that's causing stress to go up here. That can cause tinnitus, it can cause dizziness, it can cause some of those symptoms. And I know that when I'm stressed in here, I don't get, my tinnitus doesn't get worse, but I definitely get headaches. And if I get that worked on, it helps.
So massage therapy along with,
That's something that I would at least investigate. Oriented TMJ, if you're at night grinding your teeth and really tight, that could be part of that too. That could cause headaches and tinnitus.
and acupuncture you say has helped as well. That's something.
Just, some people report this. I can't say for certain if it will for you, but there is some anecdotal stuff saying that acupressure or acupuncture has helped some people. And I think it's just loosening up those muscles in through here that helps.
Thank you.
This slide just goes over like the most common tinnitus sounds that people have. And as you can see, like the hissing is one of the top. And this is kind of controversial with us tinnitus sufferers, because most of us hear the ringing or the whooshing or the roaring. But one of our favorite people on the tinnitus side, Sal Gentile, his is bacon. Bacon sizzling in a pan. That one's new for me. He just recently developed
Mine sounds like a train.
a train, like a whistle? A train whistle or just a train sound?
The train, like the
The wheels. Well, there we go. That's a new one for me too. Yeah. So we all have different noises, and some of us, like I told you, have combination noises. Some will start out with a ringing in the morning, and then all of a sudden they'll develop crickets and everything else throughout the day. And so, yeah, it's a phenomena that none of us really know why we hear certain noises. But ringing happens to be the next talk. And I've noticed a lot of people with hearing loss have the ringing. And people that either they have the high frequency loss, but they're not enough for hearing aids, they have more of the other noises than hearing loss people.
I have a hearing loss when I take my hearing aids out at night. Sometimes I will hear that ringing, but then it will go away. So I'm thinking, you might have have to deal with the kettlebells, trying to work all day.
We've discussed yours a few times. Leanne is one of my students in my speech reading group, and some people start to hear the tinnitus, and then it goes away. Have you ever been to a rock concert? And you go to the rock concert for a few hours, and you come out, or any concert for that matter that's very loud, and you come out, and you're driving home, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, what's that noise? You're looking around for it, and you don't quite know where it's at, and it's in your ears. Well, that is part of noise-induced damage to your hair cells. And over time, if you keep doing that, of course, then you'll most likely end up with the debilitating non-stop tinnitus. Where yours is hearing loss, you're new to isn't that your ear you just barely started wearing a hearing aid in?
Yes.
And so the stimulation from the new hearing aid, and yeah, there's some factors in there that you might be hearing the tinnitus now when you take the hearing aid out. That doesn't mean you'll develop permanent. So I can't tell you if it's going to stick or not. Hopefully not.
Just thought I'd bring that up because I didn't know if anybody else would want that information.
Do you want to?
I'd use the camera example. That's what's happening there, is that when she started with the hearing aid, all of a sudden she could hear, and there's some stimulation happening in her ear. When she takes the hearing aid out, now it's gone. So the lights are dim, and what's left is the tinnitus. Where before, she had already adapted to the tinnitus, and now the new hearing is the lights getting turned on. So
There you go. Makes sense? I'm programming my phone so you guys can hear. I have some samples. How many of you have been on the American Tinnitus Association website? Have any of you listened to the sounds of tinnitus? Yeah? Now, those of you that are deaf, you won't be able to hear this. But for those of you that aren't deaf, you should be able to hear this. And I'll play mine first. Tell me if it's too loud, because some of the tones I don't hear because I'm missing that input. Oops. Okay. Any of you hear that? Okay, now this is my tone in my right ear that I hear 24/7. Okay, I don't know if this one's on.
Yes.
yeah.
Can any of you hear this one? You can? Because I can't hear that one. Okay, now that's at 7,500 hertz. That's the roaring. Screeching. Static. Static's common. Tea kettle. Those are the most common noises, and you can, if you go to the American Tinnitus Association website, you will be able to listen to those different sounds. And so, the reason we do this is because if you need to play this to your family members or your spouses that don't understand what you're going through, go to their site and let them listen to what you go through. That's going to open their eyes to what we go through every day.
For a long time, I've had tinnitus for quite a while, and I think I've gotten used to it. But right now, it seems like it's getting louder and louder. So during the daytime, I seem to be okay because I'm busy. But when I go to bed at night, it seems like that's when it gets louder. And that's when I get frustrated about it, because it just gets loud and annoying at night. I told my mom, and I tried to explain to her, and she said she'd never heard of anything like that, anything like tinnitus. I tried to tell my children about it, but they didn't realize that I had that and didn't know that there was anything like that. Tonight when you're speaking, I can kind of hear you very quietly, so I can kind of get what you're saying. It's a little bit of a delay, but it's also like on the volume. On the television, I turn the volume completely down, but I feel like I can still hear it. I feel like I can feel the words, even though I'm just reading it on the closed captioning. So maybe I'm just imagining it. I don't know what's happening.
Well, you know, with tinnitus, it does affect how well we can hear, because we're competing with hearing, and we're competing with the tinnitus in our ears. And so if you're having a hard time like hearing me, but you also wear hearing aids, do you have hearing aids? Okay. Are you complete? Well, are you deaf, or are you?
More than hard of hearing. I have been ever since, but using a hearing aid in schooling, and I graduated and I took them out because it was too much. There's too much going on. You know, you'd hear a bird, or you'd hear almost people walking, and just all these noises, you would just hear these things. And so I don't like it, and then now I have tinnitus.
Okay. Well, Dr. Garrett, what would you say in that situation? I mean, because hearing aids actually, they help with the tinnitus. So, but if you had them programmed specifically where you could, the new hearing aids are wonderful. There's different programs. So you could actually turn it to a softer program and not get all that noise. And so that would be beneficial for you, because the electrical stimulation from the hearing aids actually, it does help with the tinnitus. And it might actually relieve some of your tension that you carry with you because of the tinnitus. But you know, it's a personal preference also. Now we're going to cover some terms. I'm going to cover them a little bit fast, but hopefully you'll understand some of them, because these are just classifications. Many of you might already know the classifications. Do you know the classifications of tinnitus? Not right? Okay. Subjective tinnitus is the most common form of tinnitus. It is basically in our auditory cortex and also our brain. It can also include some of the somatic tinnitus that I touched on here and there. It's only perceived by the patient. The doctors won't be able to hear what you're hearing. Then there's also disorders of the ear can cause this. Objective tinnitus is actually a totally different phenomenon. You still hear the noises, but it's mostly based on your vascular and circulatory system, and it is synchronized with your heartbeat, usually. It can sound like a forceful blood rushing through your system. Now that one is, you actually really do need to go see a physician for and be evaluated, because it could be something that needs to be treated. And we'll go into a few of those. If you have objective tinnitus, it's usually heard by the examiner, because it's blood flow, so they'll be able to like put it up to your carotid artery and a stethoscope, and you can hear that pulse. There's also many different classifications of tinnitus. You have non-vibratory, that's of course your most common subjective subcategory. It's usually neural or auditory systems, like we just covered. It could be your peripheral or central nervous system. Most people with this have a cochlear hearing loss, and that missing sensory input is what is causing us to hear these noises. Vibratory tinnitus is very interesting. And have you ever had like a nervous twitch and it kind of feels like a vibrating twitch? No, maybe? Well, okay, some of the patients with objective tinnitus, they will actually feel a vibration throughout their entire system, especially with a tinnitus spike. So it can start at the bottom of the toes or go to the tip of their head. And so it's a very interesting phenomenon. It can be subjective or objective because if you have like TMJ that we'll talk about, sometimes that can cause like a vibration in your jaw. And it's mostly like a muscle spasm. And that can be in either subjective or objective category, depending on what stage it's at. The most common subjective tinnitus, it can be caused by many different things. It can be caused by nose exposure, like sensorineural hearing loss, like I have, or other people that are exposed to loud noises, like military veterans, also anyone that's had damage from earbuds. A lot, it's becoming very common. A lot of teenagers are having problems nowadays. Autotoxic drugs. This comes into play with some drugs like chemotherapy drugs are very common for causing this. Conductive hearing loss, which Leanne has she has a mixed hearing loss. The conductive started out first. Autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune inner ear disease can cause this. Each one is a phenomenon that's very hard to catch, but it causes a lot of hearing loss and it causes tinnitus. One of the new theories is RF cell phone towers. With cell phones nowadays and the frequencies they set off, it actually is becoming more common. You see it more and more, especially with call centers that have both the cell phone capability and the regular phones. There is a frequency that comes through the phone that can actually it's like a loud beeping noise that will come through the phone, damage your inner ear cells, and then cause tinnitus. And it's becoming really common among call centers. And then, of course, TMJ is very common. Many people have it, don't even know they have it, but it's causing tinnitus. It can also cause like a muffled ear where you don't hear as well, and it's kind of like a pressure in your ear. That could be TMJ. But this is a broad subject. You guys have copies of the presentation so you can like go through. There's many different reasons for this. This is just a picture that kind of shows some of the mechanisms that come into play. Do any of you here have Meniere's disease? Oh yeah, forgot. I totally forgot. Angela has Meniere's disease.
What is that?
Oh, well, Dr. Garrett, take it from there.
Meniere's disease is bad news. Meniere's disease is caused by an excess buildup of fluid in the cochlea, which causes the membrane inside the cochlea to rupture. When that rupture occurs, there will become a roaring tinnitus, super loud, accompanied with severe vertigo, usually laying flat on your back for as long as the attack occurs. And then when the membrane starts to heal back up, the tinnitus goes away, the dizziness settles down, but when you come out of it, your hearing usually is taking a pretty good hit.
Yeah, so this can be one of the causes. And of course, head traumas are very common. I mean, if you damage your head and you have like a concussion or an open wound or anything, this can be caused by, it can cause hearing loss as well as tinnitus. Also, many people, my generation especially, were giving autotoxic ear drops. A lot of the myosin family antibiotics can be very autotoxic, and if you keep using them over and over and over, it can cause this to happen. If it passes the eardrum, that can happen. Now, this is the combat noise soldiers. Now, if you look at this, okay, vacuum cleaners, Dyson vacuum cleaners. When you vacuum your house, how many of you wear earplugs? Oh, we found one. First person I've ever met. Actually, Dyson vacuum cleaners, some reach 87 decibels. That's loud. Now, if you have a large house, you've just done noise damage to your hearing. And if you vacuum a lot, you could develop tinnitus from vacuuming. And we recommend it through my site as well as the American Tinnitus Association to wear earplugs for anything over 85 decibels. So yes, vacuuming. We recommend if you already have tinnitus and you're a woman and you're blow drying your hair, wear earplugs because that will help you avoid spikes. Now, if you think about the veterans coming back from the war, think about grenades and guns and all the combat they see. They do provide hearing protection for a lot of our military. However, when you're in a war zone and you're trying to make sure that you can hear your surroundings and make sure that you don't get caught in sniper fire, you're not going to wear your earplugs as much. And then you're going to come back with this severe damage to your hearing. And it's very devastating to our soldiers as well as their families. And that is why we're raising so much awareness and research, is because we want to help our veterans as well as other sufferers through the research and the funding. And this is a picture of, you can see normal hair cells that kind of look like cilia, or I picture, you know, the seaweed in the ocean, and it flows like this. That's how I picture inner ear cells, because they're supposed to be happy and upright and freely flowing. But when they're damaged, they usually start to fold inwards or they go missing altogether. Well, if you have noise damage in your cochlea, they'll be folded over, they'll be missing, and that can cause not only hearing loss, but it can cause the tinnitus also. Because if you remember how I explained the skipping CD, now if you see it, now you can see how everything has to work harder in order to send signals and receive signals. And so that's where that phantom noise is coming through. I designed this one myself. It's the tinnitus stress cycle. So at first, when you get tinnitus, especially when you first get tinnitus, you start to feel this overwhelming stress and panic. You don't know what this is. Is there something wrong with you? I've had many people think that all of a sudden they have a mental disorder where they need therapy and they need to maybe be checked into a behavioral institute because they think they're in that category where they're hearing voices and different things like that. And they get really stressed out. But they're not. It's just this phenomenon. And so they go to the emergency room and they seek help. Well, what happens there is they prescribe you medication. You come home and all of a sudden, you're like, now I have to take medication the rest of my life to get through this. So you get more stressed. The more stress you have, the more tinnitus will increase and spike. And you get stuck in this cycle of over and over and over again. The key to making your lives better and living a fuller life with tinnitus is breaking this stress cycle. And it's not easy, and it takes every ounce of determination to get through this. And it never stops either, unfortunately. We have to remind ourselves sometimes, it's okay. I'm standing here before you right now, and this ear is just through the roof at the moment. And it's because I'm giving a presentation, so of course, I'm stressed. But I'm not stopping, and I'm not leaving the room or doing anything. I'm actually going forward because I've learned, it's kind of a technique for me, and I talk about it on the site. I actually start to think on the opposite side of my brain. I start to focus more on this ear. And I try to force all my thought process on this side. And the more I do it, the calmer I am, and the lower I perceive my right side of my tinnitus. So it's a little coping skill that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but you can do it. There are techniques like this. And I put a brief coping skill in the handout tonight. It's just very brief. We do a lot more on the site. Now, conductive hearing loss. This one's interesting because some conductive hearing loss can actually be reversed. For instance, if you have a buildup of wax in your ears and it's just extreme, and you go to an ENT or an audiologist that can clean your ears out, all of a sudden you might not have tinnitus. So, conductive hearing loss can be, actually, if you're going to wish for something for your tinnitus to be, that one might be the easiest one to fix and cure, in a sense. Some of the other things that cause conductive hearing loss aren't as easy to fix. Like the otosclerosis actually has to be operated on, and ear infusion sometimes can damage more parts of the ear. And then, of course, if you have a dysfunction in your eustachian tube, you either will have to have tubes put in, or there's some other things that you have to do.
Where's the wax coming from with your anyways? The wax.
The what?
Yeah, how are you getting this?
Oh,
wax
well,
fixed?
now there are some people that will stick a Q-tip in your ear. Don't do that. Yeah, not a good thing to do. Go to a professional. Go see an audiologist, an ENT, and they actually have the proper tools to clean the wax out and make sure that everything is nice and clean. Because there are some people that will stick a Q-tip in their ear. They actually can rupture their eardrum. And so, yeah, not a good thing. There's some people that have lost their hearing because they've ruptured their eardrum and it's caused so much damage, and they didn't go see a doctor, and now there's not a lot for them to do because of the scar tissue and everything.
So when you're taking a bath or shower and you get or water in your ear, you may use a Q-tip to clean that out, and that's okay, or no? What's the difference?
It's not recommended. If it's not all the way in your ear, and just a towel and dry out your ear, anything you stick in your eardrum is only, isn't it like 1 inch or?
Your eardrum's about an inch and a half down.
Yeah, 1.5 inches from your outer ear. Now think about it, Q-tips are long, and if you accidentally go too far, you're doing a lot of damage.
The other problem with Q-tips, when people are trying to clean the ears with Q-tips, all they really accomplish is shove the wax in deeper and make it harder for us to get it out.
That's true. You can shove it down more and cause more problems, and yeah, it's highly not recommended to do that. If you go see your audiologist or ENT like once a year, or if they can tell you if you have like excessive wax versus just the normal.
I was told by a nurse, so through AT&T, I worked in Omaha, Nebraska for AT&T anyway, so a nurse there working for the company, she told me that with a Q-tip you can dip it into like rubbing alcohol, and then you can kind of put that in and it kind of cleans the wax out.
Oh, yeah,
It will dry up any moisture, but it won't clean the wax out.
Yeah, it won't get the wax out, but it'll get the moisture. Yeah. Always just see an ENT and audiologist. Trust me. Now, autotoxic medications, it doesn't mean you're going to be in this category. I mean, some people can take a medication. Almost every medication in the world is autotoxic. And if you take a lot of it, or you're very susceptible to it, you could have tinnitus and hearing loss from it. I'm very susceptible to autotoxic medication. There has been 3 times now that I've lost my hearing, and it was because I was given autotoxic medication. So gentamicin ear drops took it the first time, along with the virus. Doxycycline took it the second time, and they're debating on the last one that took it this time. But yeah, some people are just a lot more susceptible to it than others. And so always discuss your medications with your doctors and ask if it's autotoxic. I included an autotoxic page in your book, and but I didn't include the ratings. There's different ratings on how autotoxic something is. And so you can actually, there's a book that you can purchase that'll go over the most common medications and the ratings. And I just, for my own sanity, I stay away from everything autotoxic. And I just learned that Pepto-Bismol, of all things, is ototoxic, and it's because it has aspirin in it. So, but of course, these are just some of the common different ototoxic medications. Chemotherapy agents are very, and okay, a very common cause of somatic tinnitus is TMJ. Any of you in the room have TMJ or know you have? Okay?
I had an operation,
Oh,
broke the tendon of my jaw from car accident, TMJ operation.
oh wow. So you have severe TMJ. I have TMJ, and I notice that some nights when I'm very stressed out, I do grind because I wake up and I have that, oh, my jaw is so tight.
I have a mouth guard.
I know, I have a bite guard, but some nights, yeah, I just don't use it. Because it is, it's hard to get
I
used
have an
to.
overbite too, so if I don't do it, all the teeth will fall out.
That's true. But there are some people that don't even know they have it. And so sometimes if they go to a neuromuscular dentist, they specialize in tinnitus, which we have a very good one in Bountiful here, and they do the physiotherapy, and they do also the bite guards, and they work with you. There have been some patients with somatic tinnitus that actually have their tinnitus just disappear over time with all the therapies. It doesn't happen always, but there are those cases out there. They caught it soon enough, there wasn't a ton of damage like yours, and they can actually help them. Sinus pain, a lot of people will experience sinus pain, jaw pain, ear pain, muffled noises. It can be TMJ. Other subjective tinnitus, they just don't know. And I don't know if you've experienced this. You go to a physician and you tell them, oh, I have noises in my ears, I bring them in my ears, and they say, live with it, deal with it. It's because some of the subjective tinnitus, they don't know what's causing it. They have absolutely no clue. Of course, a good physician, a good audiologist, a good ENT will order tests. Tests are very important in diagnosing tinnitus because we want to rule out objective tinnitus. And I'll explain why we want to rule it out. But, you've got a lot of theories in here. It can be the auditory, hyperactive cells, chemical imbalances, if you have like hypothyroid problems or hyper, then that can be something easily fixed, and it can alleviate your tinnitus. Now, objective tinnitus, it is quite rare, but it goes with your heartbeat. It's altered blood flow. It can actually be a muscle spasm inside your ear. It can be TMJ, it can be vascular problems, or it can be in the hypertension family. So this is why you want to get checked. You do want to have the MRIs or the MRAs, the CT scans, the neck evaluations, because if they find out that you have one of these, then they need to either operate or do other forms of treatment. There are cases, not many, but there have been cases of objective tinnitus being fatal. But that's when it's really bad. It's a vascular disorder that is just out of this world. It's affected the heart and everything over time. So this is why the distinction is very, very important. For my tinnitus site, if you're explaining these noises to me, I always recommend you over to the Worcester's site. Worcester's is a wonderful post-nasal tinnitus site. And since I don't have post-nasal tinnitus, and they do, that's where I send you. They have a list of doctors throughout the United States they recommend you to make sure that you are diagnosed correctly. And also the central nervous system mechanism, it's where the brain really comes in. There's lots of areas in the brain that are part of tinnitus. If you have more of the hearing loss tinnitus, it is going to be mostly in your auditory system. Yeah, I kind of drew a blank there for a minute. and also your dorsal cochlear nucleus. This picture doesn't show very well, but on your brain, you've got your cochlea, and then you have your vestibular nerves and your auditory nerves that go up to your ears. Then you have, when it gets to the brain, it's like kind of down here, and it's called the dorsal cochlear nucleus, and it's connecting part of your auditory hearing system. And so, when this comes into play, I picture a very unruly teenager. This is my analogy for the dorsal cochlear nucleus. If you've ever had children and you've had teenagers, now this teenager wants a new iPhone or wants a new iPod, Xbox. So what does the teenager do to the parents? Nag, nag, nag. I want. The parents try to ignore it. I don't want, I'm not going to pay attention to you, not right now. Teenager gets more aggressive. Nag, nag, nag. So, all of a sudden, parents pay attention to it. The minute you pay attention to it, you're stuck in that tinnitus cycle. That's the teenager. You've just given it power over you. And so this kind of explains the dorsal cochlear nucleus, because what happens is you are trying to overcome like a hearing loss, or you're trying to overcome the central nervous system mechanism that's speeding up. So what happens is the brain sends more of a forceful signal to the dorsal cochlear nucleus. As it hits the dorsal cochlear nucleus, it speeds up, and it sends a more forceful signal down through the auditory nerve. The auditory nerve takes it and sends a more forceful signal to your cochlea and your hair cells and your hearing. And bam! It's like a bomb. Just explodes, and that's where you get the tinnitus spike. There's another very good analogy for this also. And this is from Dr. Garrett. Picture a birthday cake. One candle in the middle. Lights are on. Everyone's in here. We're focused on the presentation, and the birthday cake's right here. How bright is that candle? It's not very bright, because you have all of this other things you're focusing on. Now, if I turn off the lights, and you just have the birthday cake there, and you have the candle in there, how bright is the birthday cake? Did it really change? Not really. Your perception changed. How you perceive the brightness of that candle has changed. Nothing else changed. We're still here, we're still doing a presentation, we just dim lights. Well, but we're focusing more on that candle because the lights are dimmed. Tinnitus. The more you pay attention to it, the louder it is. That's the whole key to this. Now, depression. When we were talking about depression, this is very interesting. The ATA has been studying this for many, many years. Just like, the joke, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, this is which came first, depression or tinnitus. And they, with some patients, you can kind of tell. If they were already depressed, then they developed tinnitus. Well, odds are the depression caused the tinnitus because their body is so stressed out and so emotionally drained. However, if you didn't have depression, you developed tinnitus. Now you have depression, it's probably the tinnitus causing the depression. And so they're trying to create medications for the people that already have the depression that develop tinnitus, because then that will kind of separate it even more and maybe help those people.
Of course, my depression was a symptom of my chronic fatigue. Epstein-Barr, that's what related that way. It was not direct depression by itself. It was a symptom of chronic fatigue. So it's another symptom of another symptom of another symptom.
Yeah, it's really hard because some people are so complex on what, they've got every part of their body involved. They've got the physiological response, the central nervous response, limbic system, hearing system, you've got it all. You're like me, we're the combo meal. Yeah, that's us.
I got 8 broken noses, I had a cracked cranial.
Yeah. Now, on evaluation and history, this is what you want to make sure. If you have this, you want to make sure that you go to the proper physicians, ENTs, audiologists, that you want to make sure they know what tinnitus is. You want to make sure that they actually treat it and not just tell you have to live with it. Because you don't have to just live with it. I mean, some of us have to kind of just live with it because we're more in the coping skill category because of our hearing loss. But, there are other things that can help you. But you want to make sure that you do a careful history to make sure that you're catching different things that could be causing this. Have you been in a car accident? Do you have head and neck trauma? Do you have a history of autoimmune diseases in the family? Do you have hearing loss in the family? You want to make sure to go to an audiologist and have your hearing checked. When you get your hearing test back, and they're looking for the tinnitus, they can also do a pitch and a loudness test to show you how loud you're perceiving your tinnitus, so that then they can go forward and make a treatment plan, either masking, or we're going to talk about the new sound cure, which I'm very excited about, and they can make different ways to help you get through this and be able to live a better life with this. And of course, infection is very common with tinnitus. If you have a really bad sinus infection and ear infection, this can actually be the onset of your tinnitus. Some people, it'll go away after the infection and they're properly treated. Some people will develop lifelong. It's actually a small percentage, though. It's not as high as what you would think, because after you cure that infection, it should go away. And we were talking about sleep apnea. It's on there also. And then also, you want to search for the vascular type. You want to go in and get a very thorough checkup. Everything, circulatory system. You want to check out your brain and make sure you don't have like an acoustic neuroma, which is a little tumor. You want to make sure that all of those are evaluated before you move forward with your treatment. And this just kind of goes over the objective. This, they'll try to actually give you light exercise to see if they can speed up your circulatory system, to see if you have this phenomena. Because if you turn your head from side to side and move your head up and down, you could have part of the objective tinnitus family. It doesn't mean you have the most fatal type of objective tinnitus. You could just have something that in your vascular system that is causing this, but then you also might have another mechanism in your central nervous system causing it. So then they can really work out a treatment that's best for you. And of course, you'll go through with your audiologist the speech discrimination scores, loudness matching, masking levels. Have any of you been to an audiologist where you've done the pitch and loudness test?
Last week.
Oh, okay.
Friday.
What was your pitch at?
High frequency. My thing is, I have lots of high frequency,
High frequency?
so that's why my pitch is high frequency.
A lot of people have the high frequency, I've noticed. With mine in my right ear, we pitched it at 4,000 hertz, which is very common for women. Women will be anywhere from 4,000 to about 4,800 hertz is usually what we perceive it at. But the weird thing was, they pitched it on my left ear, and I was 1,500 hertz, but I was a combination of static tone and buzzing tone in that ear, where this one was like a fire siren.
My left was higher, but they're both quite loud.
Yeah, and that's where one of the treatments that we're going to be talking about tonight, the sound cure, is really, because it can be programmed different for each ear. And Dr. Garrett knows a lot about that. And then, of course, this is just a lot of testing that they'll do to rule out everything that could be damaging to your system as well as your hearing. You have thyroid tests, blood tests for autoimmune diseases, and the possibilities of your blood chemistry tests. They need all of that. And the CT scans that we went over earlier and the MRAs. With mine, I just had these done this last hearing loss that I had. And on my MRA, it showed that I was more prone to 3mm aneurysms. And so that was a little concerning. And they also believe I had what's called an cochlear inner ear stroke. And they think that's what did in this ear. And so, yeah, so see, if I wouldn't have went to the doctor and I didn't know that, I wouldn't be on the treatment I am now, and I wouldn't be standing here tonight. So that's why you need these tests done. Now, how many of you that have had tinnitus for quite a long time have done the diet modification? So what I've noticed, it's not really the food that's causing our tinnitus spikes. It's actually...
Well, decreasing salt.
Oh, yeah, salt, we're the same. What it is it's not actually the food causing our tinnitus increase, it's actually our physiological response to the food. Because when you have all these things linked together in your system, and you know stress will increase tinnitus, well, a neuroexcitatory transmitter in a food group, MSG, aspartame, they both, when they hit our physiological response and they're traveling through our bodies, will increase stress, anxiety, which increase tinnitus. So it's not really the food in a sense, because it could be anything in that food that's causing it, not the whole food group. So like, for instance, a lot of people that have hearing loss, salt is a trigger. Not only because our ears have to work so hard just to hear what we hear. Salt and water go together. Well, if you're kind of dehydrated, but you've eaten a lot of salt, what happens is your body has to kind of try to get rid of that salt, or else you'll notice this swelling. Well, your entire body is trying to get rid of that salt, and your cochlea is part of your body, and it speeds up trying to get that fluid out. That's where you're going to have a tinnitus spike, and you might get dizzy, and you might feel different. It's because we're trying to avoid, we're trying to get rid of the salt in our systems. And caffeine is another one. It's a vasoconstrictor. Well, if you vasoconstrict, you're vasoconstricting your ears also, and the blood flow to your ears, which would cause a tinnitus spike.
When you say salt, are you talking about iodized salt or rock salt?
The what?
If you're talking about salt, are you talking about iodized salt, or are you talking this rock salt? See, I don't use iodized salt at all. I use this rock salt.
So iodized salt or rock salt?
Oh, actually, you know what's strange is it can be any salt. It just depends. What I do, and some of the other people I know that salt affects them, we substitute our diets with Mrs. Dash, because it doesn't have any salt in it, and it still flavors your food, and you get away from that tinnitus spike. And so you have to try different things, because not everyone that has tinnitus will have the physiological response to food. And so it's kind of a hit and miss with us.
What about like kosher salt?
About what?
What about kosher salt?
Kosher salt? It's really any salt. But like I said, it doesn't mean that you will experience what I experience and other sufferers experience. If you've eaten it and you haven't noticed it, odds are you're not going to notice it. And so it's just I recommend diet modification.
My recommendation about diet modification usually is the stuff like coffee, tea, cola, salt, red wine, red meat, all the stuff that anecdotally contributes to tinnitus. Honestly, you should probably cut back on anyway. So I tell people, cut back and live a little bit healthier lifestyle, and it's not going to hurt you anyway. I don't tell people, you got to stop your coffee, you got to stop your Diet Coke, you got to stop the salt. I don't tell people that. I just say, just ease back just a little bit and see if that makes a difference for you.
Yeah,
It doesn't
exactly.
for others, doesn't matter.
Because, yeah, exactly. Everyone's different. And so, but diet is a huge thing for everyone in the world. It's not just the sufferers. If you eat bad, you're going to have bad health no matter what, if you suffer from tinnitus or not. So it's just a thing that we recommend. Now, as far as treatments with vitamin supplements, okay, again, this is kind of a coping. It doesn't work for everyone. It is recommended by a lot of tinnitus sites. The reason I put this slide in here is because people ask about it all the time. So here's my take on it. Some people with Meniere's disease have shown some improvement with lipoflavonoids. If you don't have a Meniere's mechanism in there, you probably won't. I, for instance, do have a Meniere's mechanism. I also was deficient in vitamins. So when I took lipoflavonoids, and I still do occasionally, I do feel better. Does it really cure my tinnitus? No, but it makes me feel better, which decreases my tinnitus because I'm calmer and I feel better. So really, that's all supplements are doing for you, is if you're deficient in a vitamin, if you're tired, overly stressed, or it might be a placebo effect. You take it, you feel better. If you want to take them, that's up to you. There's no real research that shows it's going to cure. But I do have one patient. I have one person on my support group that she was severely deficient in vitamin D. She's been doing vitamin D supplements and therapy, and guess what? Yes, her tinnitus did lower. It's still there, but it has lowered. So if you are deficient, it can help.
One thing about these types of things, ginkgo and those things, talk with your pharmacist. Don't just go to the health food store, go to the pharmacist and ask them if you're on medications, make sure that those supplements aren't going to screw up your medications with the physician. If you've got heart problems or something, sometimes ginkgo can make your other stuff not work right.
Yes, exactly. You have to be very careful with a lot of supplements, because if you're taking like an anticoagulant and you take ginkgo, that can really be a problem. So yes, if you're taking medications, please talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist. Never start or stop your medications without permission from your doctors. Big thing. Now, there are some medicines that they have shown to kind of help, but a lot of these are what we refer to as a crutch medication. It gets you through some of the first months of your tinnitus. Antidepressants do help some people be able to handle that stress of the first couple months. But then, you should talk with your doctor about starting to wean off and learn other coping skills, because all medications have lots of side effects, and if you don't have to take them, why spend the rest of your life taking them? So talk with your doctor about the different things you're taking. Antihistamines, if you have severe allergies and it makes you have a tinnitus spike, I, for instance, have severe allergies, and in the summer I take, a lot of antihistamines, and I have noticed a little tiny bit of decrease in my tinnitus when I don't have so much pressure in my sinuses. So, but it doesn't cure it. And then hearing aids, we've talked a little bit about, because hearing aids they actually bring back some of your sensory input, which your brain is trying to interpret the missing signals, causing an increase in your tinnitus. So if you have hearing loss and you can wear hearing aids, it is highly recommended. The new hearing aids that are out that are showing promise are the Widex Zen. And I have many people that have the Widex Zen, and they love it. The reason is you have not only amplification, you have a masking device in there. It has different musical tones, different white noise in there. Everything is built in right into the hearing aid. So you can wear it at work and not have to worry about, having a tabletop generator or anything in view, but you can wear the hearing aid and switch it from the different programs. And if you like masking and you have hearing loss, perfect.
Is that like with the digital? Is that?
It is a digital hearing aid. It's newer. I know, you're the
typically
same,
don't
you're
like
the
digital.
same. I have
Yeah, I never
digital
liked
hearing
those.
aids that cost a lot of money. They're sitting in a box at home and I'm wearing my programmable. Creature of habit. I've had hearing aids since I was 9 years old, so I'm used to the old kind. Don't like the
Yeah,
digital.
I'm the same, definitely.
And there's many different varieties. And then masters. How many of you in the audience that have tinnitus have like a master? Any of you? Do you have one that is a hearing aid master, like up on the board? No? Do you have a tabletop
program I had on my phone.
Okay, yeah. So there's lots of different types. There are some that you can wear in your ear like a hearing aid, but they're not amplification. Some people like them for their tinnitus spikes because they're, easy to carry around with you, easy to wear. But there's a downside because you don't have amplification and you have something in your ear and it's harder to hear. So they're popular for some and not for others. It really depends on your preference. The sound generators, there's lots of different ones. Of course, nowadays, we're very lucky. iPhone, and the masters on iPhone are awesome. I have so many different ones. I included my favorites in your packet that you can download on iTunes. And there's a new one, what's it called? It's the Tinnitus Pro, and I added it to your packet. Have any of you heard of Notched Music? It's a music therapy for tinnitus patients. What they do is on iTunes, and you can work with your audiologist with this program too. What you do is you download this program, and you choose your favorite music, whatever it may be. But each one of us have different frequencies and pitch of our tinnitus that are aggravated by certain music. You can actually take out the different frequencies out of your music that actually make it worse, and then just listen to the music without those certain frequencies. So then you can enjoy music once again. Very neat program, one of my favorites. We also recommend what are called air drives. If you can use earphones, instead of earbuds, you use air drives. The picture is just right on that side. The speakers fit in front of your ear, so not only can you still hear your surroundings, but also you're not damaging your hearing as much as with earbuds. And you can find them online, very cool. They work with some hearing aids, another cool thing. For my hearing loss, I can't use any type of headphones. So I use that. If I can't hear the certain music, I actually have speakers that I clip to me, and I can feel the music, and I can feel the beat, which that calms my tinnitus too, even if I can't hear the music. So that's one of my coping techniques. And then, have any of you heard of tinnitus retraining therapy, TRT? Yeah? Have any of you had it? Nobody? Okay, well, this is a little bit older therapy. William Shatner, do you remember Star Trek? William Shatner, Captain Kirk? He has severe tinnitus, and he is a very big advocate for the American Tinnitus Association and also tinnitus retraining therapy. He swears by it. He loves it. He has YouTube videos about it. So if you ever get on YouTube and Google it, he'll talk to you about this. For some, it has shown success. In others, it hasn't. And that's where that comes into play, that none of us are the same. And some of these therapies are expensive. And that's why you do want an audiologist that you work with that actually knows about tinnitus and can say, you know what, this type of therapy will not work for you, in my opinion. And this is why, based on your hearing test or based on this. Because you don't want somebody that's just going to sell you on a treatment that's not going to work. Because I have heard that some places can charge up to $6,000 for retraining therapy. Others are lower, around $2,000 to $3,000. But so that's why if you're working with someone you trust, they'll be very upfront with you and they'll design a treatment that fits you and your budget, rather than just any therapy. And this one takes a very long time. 6 to 8 hours a day you're supposed to wear this device, along with going to counseling sessions to try to eliminate how you feel about tinnitus. It actually, have any of you, do you know about Pavlov's dog? Yeah, it's an old conditioning theory, psychology term. Yeah, and you know that? Well, okay. Now this treatment that we have nowadays is based on what's called classical conditioning. And so it's a way to kind of trick your mind into not listening to the tinnitus. And that's what happened with the dog and the bell. The psychologist would ring the bell, and the dog was salivate. And then he'd put the dish down and the dog would eat. Well, eventually he took the bell away, but he would put the bowl down and the dog would salivate and then the dog would eat. Well, same thing with our brain. If we listen to this sound all day long and then we notice that our tinnitus is no longer threatening to us, then we won't pay attention to it and it'll help with our treatment. And so that's what it's based upon. And that's why it helps some. How many of you make a resolution, like in January, New Year's? I'm going to exercise more. I'm not going to eat cupcakes for dinner. By March, April, you're back to doing it again. Old habits, you're eating cake at night, you're not exercising. Any of these therapies that people recommend is exactly like that. If you start a treatment and you only do it for 2 weeks or a month, 2 months, and you stop, are you going to see results? You're not. And that's what people need to really think about. You have to try these therapies. You have to try them for long enough because it takes a long time to trick your brain. Your brain is one of the most amazing things in our entire body. It runs everything. Without our brains, we'd be nothing. And so you have to give it time to overcome what we hear and the ringing and everything. Mnemonics is a newer therapy. It's not, it's kind of a hybrid of the TRT because it has some of the same mechanisms, but it also has some different channels and more therapies than the old TRT. I'm going to have Dr. Garrett kind of talk to you a little bit about that. Biofeedback, this is basically just kind of a coping skill. For some people, relaxation techniques help them. And by training a person to be able to synchronize their heartbeat and calm down, that will actually help them get through the tinnitus spikes. And so biofeedback is for some people and not others. For me, what I do, one of my coping skills that I do is I do deep breathing with focused thought. So you don't have to do meditation stage, you don't have to do this or anything, but I go somewhere that makes me comfortable, and I sit down, and I actually close my eyes, and I have background music playing, and I deep breathe, and I picture a Christmas bell, because that kind of signifies my tinnitus. And as I sit there and breathe, I actually blow the bell up. And as I blow the bell up, I breathe deeper into the bell until it explodes. And I do this for 10 minutes. When I open my eyes, I'm a lot calmer. Well, if you're a lot calmer, so is your tinnitus. And so that's one of my coping skills I do. And then we talked about cochlear implants. I mean, it doesn't work for everyone, but it has shown that it can work for some. So if you do have a hearing loss and you're wanting cochlear implants, you should talk to your physician about them. Surgery, controversial, unless you have something like otosclerosis or acoustic neuroma or some kind of vascular problem, then they can help you. There is one where they actually sever the cochlear nerve. Well, if the signal's coming from your brain, it's not going to cure your tinnitus, so it's very controversial. Sound cure du Sarnay, this is very new, and I'm going to have Dr. Garrett just explain briefly about this because it's brand new and I haven't even tried it yet. And it looks like a little iPod. Dr. Garrett can show you right now. And so it has S-tones. And Dr. Garrett is now experimenting with this a lot. It actually, you can program it to your specific tinnitus with your audiologist, and it's based on S-tones. S-tones are commonly found in your cochlear implants. And by stimulating your auditory cortex through these S-tones, they can actually kind of eliminate some of your aggravation from your tinnitus. So programming therapy, and I'm sure you explain it a lot better than I do, but we have pamphlets on the table. Do you want to explain it?
Sure. The S-tones, they were discovered, to be flat out honest, by accident at the University of California in Irvine. It was a musician who had severe tinnitus, and it was ruining his life. And he quit, he was a sound engineer, quit, went to the University of Irvine, it was UC Irvine, was working with the neurophysiology department there. They were just experimenting, throwing all kinds of sounds at him, seeing what would work, and all of a sudden they started using this, what they call an S-tone, and all of a sudden the guy went, oh, wait a minute, my tinnitus is better. What's it? And so I asked the lead researcher straight out, what is it? And he was flat out honest and said, we don't entirely know. But the theory there is that when you've had a hearing loss, and the auditory nerve and the dorsal cochlear cortex, and the nerve endings kind of get firing just kind of nuts. They just are going crazy in there. That these S-tones somehow bring those crazy nerve firings kind of into a more patterned type response that the brain can look at and say, okay, this isn't going crazy anymore, this is a pattern we can deal with, and that suppresses things.
Yep. So brand-new therapy, a few audiologists are carrying it. Dr. Garrett is one of them. His pamphlets are out on my table if you want to talk to him after. And another very new treatment, it's still in trial in Belgium. Here in the United States, it is used for epilepsy, depression, and Parkinson's. It is the vagus nerve stimulation. This is awesome. My nephew has this because he has epilepsy. They implant it just right underneath your collarbone, and then they run it through your vagus nerve right here. Your vagus nerve is one of the main nerves that actually control your brain signal. The theory with tinnitus is, since that's the main nerve, and the signals are coming from the brain, well, you can actually send signals that say, hey, we need to calm down, just like they do with epilepsy, and they can turn different frequencies with the vagus nerve. So they tweak it every once in a while to see if it's working for you. And then it should alleviate your tinnitus. Michael Transponder is who's doing some of the trials, and he was a baseball player. Will Rossellini, if you like baseball, Will Rossellini, and he is one of the leading scientists in this. Right now, the trials are in Belgium, and it is very promising for many tinnitus patients. And on my support group, as well as the American Tinnitus Association, we talk about this a lot, and we keep you updated on how the trials are going and how close we are to bringing them to the United States. So you might want to check that out. And my recommendations are in my book. Of course, Lane Garrett is one of my top. He is amazing. He knows about tinnitus. He's easy to work with, and he can help you with the different treatments. Wonderful doctor. If any of you have had cochlear implants or have been up to the University of Utah, Dr. Cliff Shelton is really a good doctor who will help you with many disorders of the hearing. And then also I have other doctors around that I have interviewed, and I know that they know. And then if you're interested in famous people that suffer with tinnitus, there's lots. There's Beethoven, my hero, Michelangelo. His was somatic tinnitus because laying down to paint the Sistine Chapel, he developed neck trauma. And because your shoulder and your neck, and he was painting like this for so many years, he developed severe tinnitus from that. I mean, there's so many. There's William Shatner, Martin Luther King, just amazing. Now think about all these people throughout time that have suffered with this disorder. And they're amazing people, conducted symphonies, they're actors, they're presidents, they're public speakers. Doesn't that give you hope? That you can actually live and survive and cope and carry on with this? It's really amazing. And the conclusion is, tinnitus is on the rise. It is mostly because of, noise exposure, damage to our hearing, the world we live in. And we just need more research, more fundraising, and to become aware and be advocates for this. And I was referred by the American Tinnitus Association. Dr. Harold Bergler is an audiologist in Bountiful, and he helped me put together some of our pamphlets. And of course, the American Tinnitus Association and the HLA. Thank you. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you. Oh, one more thing I would like to mention. I forgot to mention. I am actually writing, in the process of writing a book called Shattered Silence, Living with Tinnitus. These are stories that I'm collecting from my support group. All of the different people that I work with, and they have shared their stories with me. And they are very amazing people that live with this. And we're also putting together coping skills and everything else that put in the book to help everyone. And we will be, with the ATA, we are going to donate most of the funds to tinnitus research. So.
Jody, it's a lot of information in 2 hours, I know. You kill everybody tonight.
I know, I'm trying to make workshops so we kind of split it up, but.
We're going to offer it again in the fall sometime. We haven't set a date yet. So if you know anybody that have tinnitus, let them know, call us, and we'll put the name on a list. Okay? I'm going to go down over my double room if you want to look at it. It's right by the lobby.
It's our demo room for tinnitus and for the hearing loss. We've been working on for a really long time, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, finally. It's bigger, much bigger than the old demo room, by far. And I also have tinnitus CDs and DVDs. If you have a chance to look at the list, or you can stop by later, check them out. You're welcome to do that. Okay, any questions? We can mingle a little bit. Hey.
I just have a comment. Just hearing your presentation tonight, I'm totally amazed that hearing loss and tinnitus, how much goes into that. Because just having hearing loss is just as exhausting, depressing, so much work to go through. And you add tinnitus to that, I cannot imagine what you go through with that.
With all of us that have to go through this, it is a daily battle. It is really hard to overcome, but we all make the choices to carry on. And that's why Beethoven really hits home with me, because he did this before we had any of the treatments, any of the hearing aids, and he survived so well in his time, and he actually conducted these symphonies. I mean, what a hero for all of us.
That's one of the reasons my favorite composer
Many of our composers, that's our favorite.
I wish these presentations would be brought where they had to bring the families to hear that so they would understand better.
Okay.
Because so many times we have these type of illnesses that you look okay outside, but inside you're having a lot of struggles. And your family and your friends do not understand.
No, they don't understand. And that's why when I lost my hearing at 9 and I developed these noises in my ear, I actually went to my mom one time and I was in tears. And I tried to explain to her what was going on. And as a mom, she just didn't know what to do, and she didn't know why. And back then, we went to the audiologist, and they didn't know what to do for me. They were just like, it's part of what she's going through with her hearing loss. There's nothing we can do. And so that's where, when my ENT, he actually, many times, even in my adult life, he sat me on his knee, and he's rocked me while I have been crying. Because every time this happens, it's devastating.
Well, he told you you were like his daughter the last time you saw him.
My ENT,
yeah, he's a wonderful man.
He actually, when I see him now, he's retired, and he says, you've been with me since you were 2, and you were like my daughter. And I've always, tried to help you, and I wish we could have saved your hearing, and I wish we could have done more for you. But, we just aren't there yet. But we're closer, we are closer to better treatment, possibly a cure someday. So you have to keep the hope, you have to keep the faith, you have to keep moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody that wants to talk to Dr. Guerra, he can explain a lot about the new sound cure, mnemonics, and anything else you have questions for.
Go.
It'll take me too long. To keep it at 2 hours, but my mind is there's so much more we need to talk about, but my manager was up there and she kept going, speed up, and I'm like, there's so much of this coming. Yeah. So I hope they come to us. Then we can talk about more and more, because I didn't even cover some of this topics I wanted to cover. And yeah, see, it's turning out. I got the sample done, and look, Tom in there, Sherry, so, he just, and the phone, and everything, the Tinnitus Presentation.
So you're just asking for
Yeah, well, listen, is it? I don't know if she put it in there. I think she put it in there. I'm hoping. Oh yeah, she does. Okay, yeah, this is my email. Facebook. And I have some cards out there also that has my Facebook on there. So, yeah, this quicker.
I'm in level 3 support groups because I have a yearly experience. And all my
We talked about it before.
I've had several injuries, broken noses and so forth, and paralysis and so forth. So I can move them on the chronic fatigue, so we can move Epstein-Barr.
Yeah.
I work in Family History Library, you're supposed to let some quiet. And that's when it's loudest, it's quiet.
Yeah, all of us are, there's a lot of us that have so many. We have a combo. We have like, we have injuries with the hearing loss, we have.
So they overlap each other.
And our brains are all they're all shook up. And so there's one of the people that's on our supporters had an acoustic trauma. She had it operated on. Her tinnitus went away for 4 months and then it came back. And the one that drank breast milk, remember that? There was one that heard a therapy that if you drink breast milk, it will cure your tinnitus. It really did for like 6 months. For 6 months she didn't have it. And we're like, we have some crazy ideas sometimes. I remember. You'll hear every day sometimes we'll be like, really?
Sits at the back door every day.
Private. And so they get out way
On my
they're always trying us with that right now. So,
Yeah.
if you, that's my public page. But on my public page, and that's where all of us talk. And the private, the public page, you'll see the research and some of my just regular posts that I do to keep it.
I worked at the Family History Library.
I'll look forward to you if you come on. Oh, he's a great person. That's amazing. Very interesting. You're welcome.
I would go to NCAA online.org and look up.
Did you notice I have CDs out there? CD out? I forgot to tell her this. Nice to meet you.
The sound therapy, I went on this for a year. Online training, came on suddenly.
Type 4 is,
I guess I'm gonna just use one on the internet. What it is, it takes a great type
Dr. Barrett.
more keyboard style, and there is a website on it. Yeah, these fall, and Weaver is too. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's more.
Yeah, it's usually 8,000. There's 5. And now, we have a gentleman, Mike Vance, and his is I think 10,000. And you can measure that on a normal audiogram. He stops, an audiogram stops at 8,000 turns. But Dr. Garrett explains only audiologists that can test up to 20,000. And when you test that high, you'll usually also